couple of years ago, the European Court of Auditors released a special report highlighting a number of weaknesses in the way the European Commission has been delivering technical cooperation. Soon after, the European Parliament urged the Commission to take urgent action to make technical cooperation more effective. The resulting reform process, known as a backbone strategy, is now in place. But how is that progress being viewed here at the European Parliament? I'm Audrey Godet and I'm here outside the European Parliament for this special report for Capacity for Dev. I'm here to ask MEP Bart Staes what he thinks about progress on technical cooperation reform. Mr. Staes, in your opinion, has the backbone strategy managed to address the concerns and recommendations of the Court of Auditors and the European Parliament?
Well, I think the exercise the Court of Auditors did was quite useful. And also the fact that in the Budget Control Committee of Parliament we were rather critical about what the Commission did with technical assistance, that was really helpful. And indeed, the Commission presented to the Parliament, to the general public, the backbone strategy, which is indeed very helpful in solving the problems the Commission faced before the backbone strategy existed.
And do you think it's going to work?
Well, in any way, the backbone strategy gives answers to the remarks being made by Parliament, by the Court of Auditors. One of the main problems in the technical assistance, for instance, was how to work with consultants, how to make sure that there is a transparency. And the backbone strategy gives an answer to that. Of course, we are now only 2 years later, and maybe it's a little bit too early to make a real evaluation, but I'm hopeful. And what I saw through my contacts with Commission officials, I think there is a real good mood and a will to work in the right direction.
Okay. You are on the European Parliament Committee on Budgetary Control, the body that receives the progress reports from the Commission on the TC reform. Or are those reports being received by the committee?
Well, the Parliament just restarted its work after the elections, and within COCOBU we have standing rapporteurs on this kind of issues. I have been renominated as the standing rapporteur for development, not for humanitarian aid, but for development. And it is my intention now also when we start the discharge for the year 2008 to take all those half-year reports and see how the follow-up can be properly done.
And what's your vision for technical cooperation?
Well, successful technical cooperation is cooperation that is really helpful, that solves problems for people, because we are working for people in the third world, in the developing countries, and where you try to involve the people on the fields, and where maybe Europe and European Union helps, but can disappear after a while. I think that's the most important, making people and giving them a capacity of building their own futures themselves.
Chris Rochelle, Director General of EuropeAid, said that TC reform is above all a cultural change.
That's true. It's a way of how you have to work together in transparency, but also in good relationship and in respect with each other. And I think that indeed the backbone strategy and the measures that have been being proposed and now implemented are helpful in that way.
The European Commission is often characterized as a supertanker where it's very difficult to change the course. Are you optimistic about the success of the reform?
We have to be optimistic. That's life. Indeed, the Commission is a supertanker and the European institutions are supertankers, and it is very difficult to change structures, to change habits. But as it has been said, there is a cultural dimension in the whole problem as well, a change of mentality. And I see when I'm now elected for the third time, so I'm a member of parliament for 10 years now. If I compare how the European Union behaved and how the European Commission tried to solve problems 10 years ago, and I compare it to now, also the preparedness of the Commission officials and the directors and the Director Generals to have a close contact with the European Parliament in full transparency, in full dialogue, I think a lot has been changed in a good direction.
And what would you say are the key priorities of the new European Parliament when it comes to development aid and aid effectiveness?
I think one of the, and it is really the present now, is climate change. And because climate change threatens the poor people of the world, the developing countries, and they are not the responsibles, they are not those countries responsible for what is happening on planet Earth. So helping developing countries to face, to adapt themselves, to make sure that they can face the threats being posed by climate change is one of the main tasks we will have to face, and make sure also that they are financially supported to be able to be successful. In the upcoming months, the negotiations on Copenhagen will be important, and there developing countries will have to play an enormous role as well.
Well, thanks
You're welcome.
for your time.